If you go down to Village Creek, you need to wear gloves, you need to wear rubber boots, you need to wear old clothes you can get rid of. You need to avoid any contact with the water, if you can, any contact with anything around the water. There's ammonia, there is bacteria of all kinds, bacteria that could cause staph infections, strep infections, meningitis, pneumonia that can cause dysentery, cholera, amoebic dysentery, all these third world diseases that kill people every day.
This is Village Creek, the original source of drinking water for the city of Birmingham. However, due to a century of pollution, this creek has become unfit for human consumption. From its headwaters in Roebuck, on its way to the Black Warrior, Village Creek faces a grim litany of threats of all kinds. It is saturated with almost every kind of political and environmental problem associated with polluted urban waterways.
Birmingham wouldn't have existed without Village Creek. And Village Creek is not a large river, so every single ounce of that river was used for the industries. Iron ore washing, coal mining, blast furnaces, they all use huge quantities of water every single day. So over 130 years of steel making, blast furnaces, and chemical discharge have really degraded the quality of Village Creek.
The watercress darter, of course, requires very clean, pristine type water for its survival. And on the other hand, Village Creek is one of the most impaired streams in the state of Alabama.
There's the watercress darter. The watercress darter is on the endangered species list of the United States. You cannot harass, annoy, alarm, take, kill, interfere with the watercress darter, which is a fish that lives in a creek.
We, as Alabamians, should be very proud of this species. This is a species that is a beautiful animal. It is one of God's finest creations. I mean, God must have been an artist because he used a lot of watercolors on this fish.
The airport is looking at putting in a third runway, and their third runway site is East Lake Park.
Everything that seemed like it's some type of recreation for the citizens, everything is being taken away from us. See, all for the sake of industry.
I think if the airport tries to expand the runway to East Lake Park, I will spend every dollar I have to sue them and stop them. So it runs on through town and becomes an industrial, just a basically industrial drainage ditch, full of acids, and heavy metals, PCBs.
All right, now, we're going to make some pollution, and then we're going to see what the rain's going to do with that pollution. Okay, sweetie, what's your name?
Renee.
Renee? Okay, Renee, put some of that nasty pollution, just spread it out a little bit on that parking lot. What kind of pollution do we find on our parking lots? Garbage. What else do we see from our cars and stuff like that? Just a little bit.
Gas.
Yep, good. Gas and oil, nasty stuff like that. Okay, that's pollution number one. Just leave it there, all right? And here's pollution number two. This is where all that nasty sewage goes from our houses. It goes to a place where they're supposed to treat it, okay? All right, pollution maker number two, put it in one of those big bowls. All right, now, rainmaker. It's time for some rain. Put some rain over there. Go stand in the middle there. Okay, rain. It's a rainy day. I can hear the thunder. I can see the lightning. Uh-oh, here comes the rain. Oh, my God. And look at the color of that stuff on our parking lot. Oh, and I see some of that nasty stuff going into our creeks. And oh, you still want to go swimming in this lake?
No.
No, okay.
If you pollute this river here, you're polluting everyone that lives downstream of here. And that's really important for our children to understand.
A friend of mine, he ran where we was racing to see who's going to get in the water first. He jumped in the water and jumped straight out. And we was asking him what was wrong with him. And he was just scratching and screaming. I took him to the hospital. He had like third-degree burns over his body, and it came from acid that had been dumped into the stream.
All of our waterways are owned by the people of this country, not by people, big companies that can pollute it.
This stream drains downtown Birmingham, and the civil engineers have done a real good job of taking water that's in the street, getting that water into a storm drain and into the creek. And during a rainstorm, the water levels in Village Creek jump up very high, very rapidly.
And he was stepping into water that was almost up to his waist. But he had to get his children, found a way to get them out of the beds, that were being covered with water and into safety. You know, the safety he could get then was to cut a hole in the closet area to get into the attic so that they could survive.
Runs on through town, and then it runs out to an area near Bayview Lake where the Village Creek wastewater treatment plant discharges as much as 120 million gallons per day of raw sewage in there because they can't treat it.
I was 12. Me and my friend went fishing. He stayed in Shady Grove. So it's a run out to Village Creek. A little trail. We went down to his trail through his house. We walked like a couple of miles, then we got to the creek. I was feeling fine. Then like that night, I was like just feeling numb. The next morning I had to go use the bathroom. I got like a couple of steps to the door. I just fell, I just collapsed. And that was it, and I called the fire truck, and I went to the paramedics and stuff came. And I went to the hospital. And they said that I had contracted a bacterial infection from the creek. Right when I first in the hospital, I couldn't like move nothing from my chest down. I like paralyzed from the neck down. But then like, as time went on, it was just from the waist down. I stopped moving my arms and stuff.
This plant puts out 1,500 pounds of mercury a year. Doesn't sound like much until you realize that 1/4 of a teaspoon can contaminate a 25-acre lake.
Mercury, I think, is going to be the centerpiece of environmental concern over the next decade because of its extraordinary potency as a neurological toxin.
The fish, you know, eat other fish and they eat stuff off the bottom, and it's all in the fish. You got mercury, you got lead.
This water, I'm telling you, if I ate one of these fish, I think there'd be enough metal in me to beep the buzzer at the airport for the next 27 years.
The rain washes it all in there, and it's going to be in the fish, it's going to be in everything out there.
To the extent that if a child eats them, it can suffer brain damage or developmental damage or sexual dysfunction. And its source is power plants that have robbed every child in the state of the primal American experience of going fishing with their father and catching a fish and bringing it home and feeding it to their family. And you know, our generation all experienced that. The next generation is not going to have that experience.
To help Village Creek, ideally we need to re-engage our children in the importance of clean water. Take them out to these creeks and show them the creek. Let them experience it, feel it, smell it, see it, and see the critters that use it, and really make it a part of their life again. And that way they can really understand what's going on.
Village Creek is a microcosm of what we see everywhere, which is a struggle for control of the resource base. The people own the waterways, and we own the air, and we own the fisheries. Well, what happens is large corporations come in and they take those things away from the public. And if we want to maintain our right to clean water, we've got to fight for that. Local people imposing local democracy have to say, we're not going to take it anymore.
You can't get it back again once it goes all the way. Fight for it, come on.